Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is Max and this is a little whiteboard discussion on everything that you need to know to get started on Turo. I'm going to be going through every single step and kind of just explaining them and what you should do even before Turo, before you should buy your first car. There's things you should be doing. So let's jump into it. The first thing, whether you're buying one car or you're buying 10 cars to get started, the first thing is you really should create an LLC. And there's a couple reasons for this. One, to protect your assets. It differentiates you from your business. So owning a business, myself, if somebody goes to sue me or something, the business is being sued, not me personally. So I own a ton of things in my name. Those aren't going to get sued, just the stuff that the LLC owns. So just the cars in it. And you can even create an LLC aside from that LLC that owns the cars, that leases them to the LLC that's renting them. So if somebody goes to sue the LLC that is renting the cars out, they can't really do anything. And I know that's a little complicated for this. I'm just going to go into the basics. But when you're creating the LLC, there's a couple things you should think about. One is the name. And I think when you're thinking about a name, you should think about, okay, what are people going to remember? What's simple? What's something that people can tell somebody else that they're not going to forget? So all in simplicity, okay? For us, Heart Rentals, who's going to forget that? That's such a simple name. What I really like about it also is it doesn't tie us into a certain demographic of car or location. So if we wanted to do luxury rentals, if we wanted to do house rentals, if we wanted to do something else, we're not tied into car rentals specifically, and we're not tied into a specific area. So I call that no bonding. I don't know if that's what you call it, but no bonding. You're not bonding yourself into something very specific. You definitely want to allow yourself to expand if that's what you're planning on doing. If you just want to do luxury car rentals in a specific area, then maybe you could call it something like that. Or if you plan on creating a new LLC when you have another company in another state, then you could do that. That's fine. But we're not talking about that right now. We're just talking about potential for expansion. Second thought is, of course, once you have an LLC, you can create a bank account. You don't have to create a business bank account. You don't have to make it associated with your business, but separating it, very important. And I'm going to tell you why. First reason is if you want to do credit for biz. So if you wanted to get business credit, I think is really important. If you wanted funding, lending, buy more cars, if you wanted to buy an office space that you can house your cars, tons of reasons for that. Building business credit is really important as you build and scale. The second reason, and I'm sure your accountant will really appreciate this, unless you're doing your own accounting, is keeping, and I'm sure it still will help you out, keeping everything separated. So knowing where you're buying cars, how much you're spending on certain things, and really creating a separation between your personal account and this, so you know what's going on between the two. I'll tell you right now, if I had them combined with my businesses, my personal, my accountant would hate me and probably wouldn't do my taxes. They would be so frustrated. So definitely keep them separated. It just makes sense. And again, it doesn't have to be a business bank account, but just have them separated. It of course makes sense if you do, so you can get business credit, but it's fine if you don't, okay? Third lesson, which you should be doing even before you get started with this stuff. It should just be an ongoing thing. Even for us, we're doing it all the time, every day, and that is research. But I'm just going to talk about when you get started, the research you should be doing. A lot of it's going to be around the kind of cars you're buying. So let's jump into that. Cars. A couple of things you should be thinking about is depreciation is probably a big thing. Depreciation. No, it's not probably. It's a really big thing. Because if you have a car that depreciates, I'm going to give you some examples actually. So Malibu, it depreciates, it comes off top a little bit for 2 years, then it evens out, and then it depreciates again. So if you're looking at a 2-year period, the best time to buy it would be within year 3 and 4, or year 3 and 5, because you have like a 3 or 4% depreciation curve, which is really nice. But then if you look at like a Cadillac Escalade, you're looking at, I don't know, an average of 10% every single year on a 5-year curve. And this is only as important as the other information that's added into it. So if you have like really crazy high rentals, the depreciation is something to take into consideration but not make the decision. So if you're making 2 times the amount on the rentals, but you're only losing out on 50% more depreciation, maybe it makes sense to buy that car. But if you're losing out on 2 times the amount of depreciation and making the same amount of money as a car that you're not losing that much money on depreciation, buy the car with not as much depreciation. Like, really think about the numbers. The second thing you should be thinking about is ROI, which for us, we want to be at 10% a month. So 10%, every single month, we want to make 10% of what the car's value is. If you're buying a car for 10 grand, we want to make $1,000 a month. That's an average. When you get into more expensive cars or when you get into specific cars, you're not going to be hitting that much, but you should be staying as close to that as possible. When you're getting started on economy cars, there's no reason you shouldn't be hitting that. All good?
Yeah, it's not a Tiguan.
It's not a Tiguan?
It's Malibu.
I know.
But it's what you sent to us is Tiguan.
Oh, I did?
We were busy looking for Tiguan.
Oh, really? Oh, that's my bad.
The photo you sent says Tiguan.
Really?
So we concentrated on looking for Tiguan, going around. Look at Volkswagen.
Oh, I hadn't had a click. See, the image says, oh, I had it wrong. Yeah, that's my bad. I forgot to click on it for you. Oh, thank you for doing that, John.
Right here.
Okay. Zach should be back. Did you talk to him?
Yeah, I think he's busy. He said he'll get back to me.
Okay, good. Yeah, he'll be back soon to help you. All right, so once you understand your ROI, the next thing that you should think about is maintenance. So once you understand your depreciation, once you understand your ROI, the next thing is definitely keeping it maintained, and that's mechanical problems. So maybe that certain cars have transmissions going out at a certain period of time, or they have engines blowing. You should be looking at that, as well as how much certain things cost, or how much it costs to keep your car maintained in a single year. Because if your mechanical fixes is a lot more than another car that's the same price and it's making the same amount of money, you should buy the car that doesn't have as big of mechanical problems. So definitely look at that. Definitely look at if there's big issues. One example is Nissan, what are they called? Nissan, the minivans, the Nissan... And a good example for mechanical problems is like a Nissan Quest, right? Transmission goes out because they're CVT transmissions after a certain amount of time. And this isn't stuff I expect you to know off the top of your head, but it's stuff you should be looking up. We bought, and this is when we didn't do enough research, we bought 2 CVT transmissioned Nissan Quests, and they bit us in the ass because transmission went out on one, transmission was going out on another. We lost money on everything. So look into that. That's very, very important to do research on mechanical problems that a car may have. The fourth thing that you should be looking at is resale. So this is really simple. You need to be looking at how active people are looking at buying certain cars. And I'll give you a great example, and this is something that we learned the hard way. People were not looking at buying, there was not a huge market on buying slingshots, but we bought one. We got a lot of depreciation. We did not have 10% ROI. It had not a ton of mechanical problems, but when they did happen, they were really expensive, especially in comparison to something that was a similar price. And then the resale value was terrible, not because of what it was worth after, which hurt us, but it was how hard it was to sell it. Not a lot of people are looking for slingshots on their day-to-day life. They're looking for like Toyotas, they're looking for Hondas. Nobody's looking for a freaking Polaris slingshot. So think about that. When you're buying a specialty car, think about how easy is it going to be to sell it on the back end, because that is so important. Because if you're trying to sell it, you keep taking your price down, boy, oh boy, okay? Fourth thing is car buying. So when you're looking at actually buying the car, there's three primary places to buy them. The first one, of course, is dealerships. That's where most people are buying the cars. That's where you can get loans directly from the dealer. You can get the cars, but the problem with dealerships is you're not going to get as good of a deal. You're going to be paying way over what you could get on private, but of course, you're going to get the lending there, so it's a one-stop shop for everything. I understand why people do it, but I encourage, if you have the opportunity not to, don't. Like if you can get funding from a bank and then go to private or auction, ideally, that's the place to do it. So second is private. What's nice about private is you're not paying sales tax. You're able to negotiate very heavily. You can get deals done extremely quickly. I mean, there's tons of reasons to do private. That's kind of what we did when we got started. We did dealer and private, a lot more private than dealer. But of course, more recently, we've been doing auction, which is like our saving grace. Let's say you buy your car from auction, dealership, private, wherever you bought it. The next step is getting the car ready to actually go on the platform. And I guess the first step in that is insurance. So that's 5. So when you're looking at insurance, there's a couple different things that you can look at. Depending on, again, where you want to go. Some people are doing their own personal insurance. I would highly recommend you at least tell the person, like your representative, that you're renting cars out, because if you don't, I don't know the legal limitations, but I'm sure that, or implications, but I'm sure that they're not good. So definitely tell your insurance company if you're going to do rentals through your personal. But if not, I would go with commercial, and there's a couple different companies. First is Lula. There's a lot of people that are doing Lula because you can use a tracker with Lula that gets you a better discount. So that's probably one of the biggest. The second one, this is the one that we use. It's GMI. So those are the two big ones. And then there's, I think it's called ABI. Those are the 3 big ones. I know that Lula is probably the biggest, especially with Turo hosts. GMI is a big one if you want to do private stuff, which is what we do. We get a nice discount. And then ABI is one that I've heard of. I don't know too many people that use it. Now, once you get your car, once you get your insurance, there's a couple different things that you should get or kind of need to get. Need. Just going to put it under need. The first thing is a tracker. Like if you're going to get started on Turo, have a car going out, no matter what it's worth, no matter what, like you should have a tracker on it. You should know where your car is, because at the end of the day, it's an investment. So I'm just going to show you the one. I'm going to tell you about the one that we use. There's tons of different trackers. There's Move Tracks, there's Bouncy, there's I don't know the other one's names, but there's like a lot of them. So I'm just going to put down Bouncy. This is the one that we use, and you can, so it plugs into the OBD2 port, kind of like right under the dash area. But what you can do is you can get a OBD2 rerouter, which pretty much means it looks like there's nothing in the port, so people would know that there's a tracker in it. It gets rerouted up into the system, so, and it's pretty easy to do, like a couple zip ties yourself, you can do it, YouTube video. But like if you reroute it, it looks a lot better, and people won't know that there's a tracker in it, which somebody's gonna steal a car, that's the first thing, and if they see it, they're gonna pull it out. So definitely do that. The second thing is definitely, for us, is a detail. Getting the car detailed, making sure it's clean, because when you start on reservations, you just want to have a really clean start. Not only that, but for your photos. Like you want to make sure that everything looks really, really good. Brings me to the next one is photos. When you're doing your Turo photos, there's the minimum that I would recommend is 10. Outside, inside, show as many different things as you can, and show if it has any special features. If there's a backup camera, show that. If there's 3 rows, show that. If there's a really big trunk space, show that. If there's a roof rack or something, show that. Anything special that it has, show it in the photos. The photos don't need to be really, really good, but don't make them really bad either. And what I mean by that is, like, if you're gonna show the front of the car, show the whole thing. Don't be really zoomed in on like the headlight or anything. Show, like, zoom out on your phone or walk backwards, show most of the car that you can. And when you're shooting it in a specific, like when you're finding a location to shoot it, make it simple. Like, don't have the background super crowded or the same color as the car. Make it stand out. You want, out of everything, and when people are searching through cars, you want your car to stand out. I think that's really important. Once you have that, once you have your photos, detail, bouncy, the next thing that you're gonna do is you're going to put it in your dealer jacket, and I'll show you what this is. This is something that helps us for organization. There's one right here actually. Nice set. So it's called a dealer jacket. It doesn't have to be just like this, but something with a similar feel, where you know what you bought it for, when you bought it, how many miles you bought it for, the VIN and everything. You can put all your expenses. So if you had to get new tires, if you had to get a new engine or transmission, whatever you need to put on here, when you sold it, what you sold it for, how many miles you sold it for. This is to keep track of a lot of things, and that kind of brings me to organization. This kind of 7. Organization. You need to stay organized in everything that we do. Of course, the documents should be in some sort of folder like that, and everything else should be organized. So like your photos, keep them on a Google Drive in a nice place so you have them. Keep your cars parked nicely. Have a nice system for when you're renting cars out. So a good example is like when a car comes back, clean it right away. So then when it goes out again, if it's like a last minute booking, it's already clean, ready to go when it goes out to the guest. I think organization is definitely a big piece. Other than that, I mean, this is really a standard process. Now, really the next step in need is get it on the app. For this, you're gonna follow the steps. You're just gonna kind of go through the checklist of like put in the photos, put in the description. For the description, I think that you should probably make it nothing too complicated. Obviously about the car, so talk about the gas mileage that it gets, talk about the special features that it has. You can talk a little bit about why you're special, but not too much into detail. Like talk about like you're all about customer service, you're all about 5 stars, you're all about this, all about that. I would have that be a small portion. And then so once you get it on the app, the next thing is probably like tweaking, I would call it. So I'm gonna just put that as number 8, after on app. That's terrible handwriting, but once it's on the app, you should always be looking at changing prices, delivery fees. You should always be working on different things in your settings to make sure you get highest utilization. And then once you have your car, right, once you've bought your car, once you've done your research, you know how long you want to hold it for, all this stuff, you sell the car, which is kind of the final step. And what I would recommend when you're selling it, you can go to CarMax, you can go to Carvana, you can sell it there. I personally wouldn't recommend that. The times that I've looked at it, because I look at their numbers all the time on like what I could get for it, and it's like terrible. I mean, obviously they're a business and they want to buy your car for as little as possible, but like sell your car. The first step should be I'm gonna try to sell it private. Keep trying to sell it private. Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, OfferUp, whatever it is, sell it private. If you can't get it on private, then you look at dealerships, you look at CarMax, you look at Carvana. This is if I'm desperate and I need to get rid of it. If for some reason they don't want it, or I don't know why, but if you can't sell it to them or you can't get the right price, then you look at auction. But of course, auction is people looking to get cars really, really cheap, looking to get a steal of a deal. So that's kind of our tier list is we're gonna go private first, then we're gonna try to go to dealership or big companies, and then we're gonna go to auction. If it's our absolute worst case scenario, that would be like a blown transmission, which has happened to us before. That's actually the only instance I can think of. Other than that, like we wanna get rid of it private. But honestly, it's a pretty simple setup. This is really just an outline. When you're looking to get started, there's a lot of stuff in depth, and then the next step is transferring in if you want to do like private rentals, or if you wanted to do like exotics or get into something special. This is really just an outline for when you're starting your business, when you're starting your Turo rentals. So I hope you learned something from this. I hope you got some good information, and I hope to see you in the next video.